We are delighted to have you with us here. This is, as Raisa said, our 7th conversation in this new remote world in which we all live. And I have to say today is a special one. On behalf of the SBCC Foundation, we're welcoming someone who's been a truly extraordinary partner. And there's a bit of history, no doubt, to this part of the college. So I wanted to spend a moment, probably a little more than I normally would on this introduction. So today we're talking about the School of Extended Learning. And of course, the School of Extended Learning, formerly known as Adult Education, formerly actually between those two, known as the Center for Lifelong Learning. So it's had a few iterations, has really been a favorite of our community and really a pillar of what our community's education system has been for many, many decades. We are going to talk a little bit about that history, but we're mostly going to talk about what it is now and what it will be going forward. The foundation itself, the SBCC Foundation, was frankly founded and created by people that were most connected to our adult ed program, now at the School of Extended Learning. So my colleagues and I and our world are also really grateful for this piece of the college. And we're going to talk a bit about what that has looked like and what it will be going forward. So our guest today, our presenter, is Dr. Melissa Moreno. She is, and I'm going to give away the big news now, Melissa. I hope that's okay. If you have not heard, she was just hired as the new president of Skyline College, San Mateo County Community College District. So I am very sad to say our community, is losing Melissa at the end of the month. But I am so happy for her. She is and will continue to be a fantastic leader, and in this case, leader of an entire college up in my home zone in the Bay Area. And so we're really delighted to have Melissa with us. Let me tell you a little bit about her from just her arrival here. Now, she worked for over 20 years in the private sector. She was a small business owner in hospitality and real estate. She actually joined the SBCC community just 12 years ago, back in 2008, and that was to actually be the founding director and really the person who built what is now the Scheinfeld Center for Entrepreneurship at SBCC. Another connection, again, back to the foundation, Jim Scheinfeld, who was a leader with our organization, left a significant portion of his estate after he passed for the creation of this center. And Melissa was the leader who put that together. She, during that time, created things like the Enlightened Entrepreneurship Lecture Series, where she brought out really internationally known leaders to talk about their work in entrepreneurship. She did a practical guide to rapid startup. She did just an incredible array of things on this budding new entity. In 2014, she was invited, actually, I don't know how it happened, Melissa. I'll just say you were made the dean of the SBCC business division. So she went from the Scheinfeld Center to the entire business division. And plenty of things to talk about there, partnerships that she created for us there within the college. And then finally, most recently in 2017, she was promoted to the vice president by our former superintendent president, Dr. Anthony Beebe, to really recreate the School of Extended Learning out of what had been adult ed and then the Center for Lifelong Learning, and was going to be transformed once again into something that resembled the adult ed that many people had known and loved. And so she was able to do that with a remarkable aplomb and very rapidly. And I will say no more about that. She's going to share with you what the School of Extended Learning is now. So I think I'll stop there. Also tell you she's an attorney. She's a licensed attorney in the state of California. So with no further ado, Melissa Moreno, very, very happy to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I have told my team to quit making me cry. That goes to you too, Jeff. It has been such a wonderful run for me the last 13 years at Santa Barbara City College. I really appreciate all of the opportunities SBCC has given me, and I competed really hard for every position that I got here, just so you know. And so I'm so excited to share with you today, my life's passion and the work that we've done at the School of Extended Learning, and to talk about how we have been able to keep us connected to you, the community, and to our businesses and to our students. So if it's okay, I can start sharing my screen. Does that work? So I'm going to take us through a funnel today and talk about what is extended learning and what we've done in response to COVID-19 to stay connected with you. And part of extended learning is the Career Skills Institute. So I'm going to focus on that because that's very business oriented. And then talk about the career recovery program that we developed rapidly in order to address the unemployment crisis that we're experiencing in our community and how to get people upskilled and back into the workforce. So let's talk about extended learning. In 2016, we brought back adult ed to our community in response to strong community demand. And what extended learning did was integrate all of the fee-based programs, and it includes off-campus programs, including cosmetology and dual enrollment. And our charge from the very beginning was to maximize allowable tuition-free programming for adults in our community. So we set some goals very early on, and I think it's important to emphasize that we wanted to meet community demand for courses. And so we really built out extended learning based on what we were hearing was the need and based on data. And we also hired a research company to do an environmental scan. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the information that was contained in there. And so we've really tried to build a robust educational program. And another great charge of mine was to ensure fiscal stability, and so that we were earning our keep and then some. And I'm going to share our fiscal performance with you. And another important goal of our team in particular was to ensure that we approached everything we do with an equity mindset and to be inclusive and to ensure that we were being creative and innovative. So this is the team that I've been working with for the last 3 years, and just looking at this picture makes me smile because they have just been absolutely incredibly supportive. They've done such great work, and so I just want to give a shout out. In this particular picture, I was laying down on the grass in front of these folks just to be funny, so I cut myself off of that picture. So this is kind of the picture of what we did at Extended Learning since fall of 2016. We more than doubled our head count, and 6145 is the number of unduplicated students that participate in the Extended Learning programs. So that's pretty amazing. And I think it speaks loudly to the number of students that were not being served during the earlier years when it was 100% fee-based. I think we left a lot of our population out of the picture who couldn't afford to take our fee-based programs. So bringing back the tuition-free programs was really, you can tell by this growth, was a real serious need in our community. And then this slide is kind of interesting to me. We strategically reduced our fee-based programs, and that's in the blue, as we increased our tuition-free programs, which is in the green. And I think, again, this speaks loudly to the need that was in the community. And we're still able to offer some niche programming in the fee-based area, and that program has now kind of leveled out at about 1,500 students, and we'll continue to offer the fee-based in the long term. It provides much needed funding for our marketing efforts for all of School of Extended Learning. And this is sort of a nerdy slide. It's about our full-time equivalent student performance. This is the math that we do. This doesn't include our dual enrollment or cosmetology program, but it's very important to have a lot of FTEs because that's how the state funds us. So if we're reporting 1,300 FTEs, it means millions of dollars to our program. And so I just think it's very important to share with the community how we're funded, and that's by, we count enrollments, we take attendance, and we report those enrollments to the state, and they basically write us a check. It's that simple. And so the community's participation in the programs that we offer is so important, because if you don't show up in that classroom, we don't get paid. And so it's very important to support us by taking our classes. That's how you can support extended learning. And here's some money slides. I have a couple of money slides. We have done very well, and we have consistently exceeded our goals and have this supplemental revenue, excess revenue that we turn back to the district. So to see that we can turn, in 18-19, we turned back $2.2 million to the district to support the district who supports us is just an incredible performance. And we were on track. I have little asterisks here. We were on track to turn over 2.8 million. We're still doing the math, and we suffered from a drop in some of our enrollments, but clearly there's been plenty of cushion to meet the needs of our programs and provide funding back to the district. So what have we done in response to COVID-19? Here's how we have kept our community engaged. We moved to a live synchronous video conference format. We were approved by the state chancellor's office to move everything we do to live synchronous instruction. We felt that this really met the need of our community because it could keep the same schedule. So everybody that was planning on coming at 11 o'clock on Wednesday could still Zoom with us, just like you're Zoom now, at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. So it provided a continuity of education and a motivation of our students. And we have an unexpected surge in enrollments, especially with our older adult programming. I'll have some enrollments to share with you and where we are right now with summer, but it's incredible. Normally 30 students in a classroom. We're up to, in some cases, 62, 57, 55. It's just been incredible. And I think this speaks to the need of our senior community, perhaps, that can now attend some of our classes that maybe they couldn't attend before because of transportation reasons or things like that. So the unexpected surge in enrollments is informing us for the future that perhaps we want to integrate permanently some sort of live video conferencing so that we're making sure that we're engaging all of the students in the community. And I'm going to shift here a little bit to how we're keeping the businesses engaged. So I'm going to talk about the Career Skills Institute. It's an important part of extended learning, and how we developed a rapid career recovery program that we're currently offering in a short period of time so that we could capture some of the need of our community with now growing 13% unemployment rate, perhaps capture some of the folks that have lost their jobs and are considering creating a new career path for themselves or upskilling. So here we go deeper into the funnel, and we're going to talk about Career Skills Institute. So the Career Skills Institute is something we developed in 2014 and launched in 2015 in order to reach out to employers in the community and provide partnership in their employee training programs. So we visited a number of employers in our community and said, what do you need to help train your employees? And based on the survey and the data and the conversations that we had in our business community, we decided on offering a tuition-free employee training program, basically. It's a free non-credit to upskill folks that are already in the workplace, and it also helps folks that are job seekers as well. These are open access short courses. We did something a little bit edgy back in 2014 and 2015 to offer a flip classroom. So back in the day when Linda Weinman was still owner of lynda.com, we had a number of conversations about how we could integrate her video instruction. And so now that has been purchased by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is now a partner with Career Skills Institute. So the flipped classroom concept is where a faculty member will curate a playlist of the linked learning videos, assign those videos to the student to watch, and then they come into the classroom, roll up their sleeves, and work on an industry relevant problem-solving exercise and end up with a capstone portfolio piece that they can bring back to the workplace. And we created a number of certificates that are approved by the state of California. And so we decided then to issue our own digital badges that represent the micro certificates that's been earned by the student. And so what we discovered is that the skills gap is real, and we are focused primarily at the Career Skills Institute on employability skills or soft business skills, what most of you might know. So it's time management, communication, critical thinking, and so when we took our portfolio of courses to these employers, they would flip through this sort of menu of a number of classes and go, oh my gosh, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this, my team needs this. And so not knowing that we would be as successful as we were, I went around up and down the state. I presented this at the chancellor's conferences, and I said, this will never be the $1 million revenue program, but it's very important and our community loves it. Well, we are on track to bring in $1 million in revenue with this program. It has taken off in such a great way, and under the leadership of one of our team members, Jeanette Chen. And so this is sort of what the menu looks like, and you can see these little digital badges, and these are the courses that make up the certificates. So we're focused in business, primarily employability skills in business. We have a design program, a technology, computer skills program, and then a career program which focuses on certain vocational areas, which we can highlight. So these are the stats for the Career Skills Institute. We have developed 150 courses, and we're still going. We develop new courses all the time. We like to stay relevant in the community. We have developed 50 non-credit certificates, and by the end of this month, we'll have issued 1,000 digital badges. So it's been a pretty great ride, and the employers in our community love us. And these are some of our industry partners. And so if you look at it this way, all of these industry partners send their employees to our programs to train. And so we train employees at the county, at the city, at UCSB, Yardi, our own SBCC, and we have a very special relationship with the Cottage Health system where we partner with them. They do their own internal enterprise training system, and then they send a cohort of emerging leaders through our program to earn 6 to 9 digital badges, and that becomes their whole training program. And that cohort of emerging leaders, more often than not, get advanced in the workplace. And so now, as we go deeper into the funnel, we are going to talk about a career recovery program that we developed just this last in May. And this is designed to offer job seekers the opportunity to improve their skills, pursue a new career, or rapidly re-enter the workforce. So it's focused on those folks that have been laid off and have to now look at how they're going to get back into the workforce, because so many of the places that they had jobs may not exist anymore once we come out of this recovery. And so basically what this is, we increased courses that we already had and programs we already had in Career Skills Institute in the vocational areas in 6 areas. And so Jeanette worked around the clock to increase the schedule for summer and for fall. And we have deployed more student support and outreach and more career counseling. And so I'm going to review the 6 areas that we are focused on, and that's largely informed by the research that we did. So construction technology, which introduces students to residential construction in framing, finished carpentry, electrical, and plumbing. We are training gardeners in resource efficient landscaping in our Green Gardener program, and the personal care attendant that manages patients' health care from inside people's home or in a health facility. And then we're focused on upskilling in computers, where we offer basic and advanced office software and bilingual computer skill training. We have ramped up our employability skills certificates in customer relations, project management, workplace essentials, things like that. And then elementary and secondary basic skills. So we're focused on making sure those adults in the community that don't have their high school diploma, for example, now's the time to get your high school diploma and join other adults who, for whatever reason, were unable to finish their high school experience. And so, and we also have a robust English as a second language program for those folks that need to improve their English skills for the workplace. And we have very important partners in our community, the Workforce Development Board and their America's Job Center, and our own Santa Barbara Adult Education Consortium has helped us make this possible. So I think I'm at about the 30-minute mark, and I'm ready to open it up and answer questions.
Thank you so much, Melissa. That was fabulous. One thing I always have appreciated about Melissa is that I've sat through many a trustee meeting where she makes a presentation, and they always look that good, just so you know.
Thank you.
So I've got a couple questions, and we do have people weighing in. Do you want to go ahead and pull down your slides so we can?
Yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, all right. Look at that. So I want to. There's a couple of things you pointed to there that I think are really remarkable. I've seen you speak of them before, but the enrollment, the head count. We talked about the history a bit of adult ed. You know, it's truly been one of the most highly engaged places for our larger community. With the college, and yet there were some challenges with the fee only model. The community certainly reacted when that change was made over a decade ago, led to Center for Lifelong Learning. But when you stepped into this, you showed a headcount, I just took my notes here, of 2,504 unduplicated headcount, and you're now at 6,145. Can you, obviously adding back the fee-free classes is part of that, but can you talk a little bit more about your strategy of how did you do that? Because that's more than a doubling of the size in just a few years.
Well, I think what was interesting is, you know, combining the very small tuition-free programs we had at the time with the fee-based programs, and then blowing out all of the other areas in older adults, and it floated everybody's boat, if you will, because now we had one umbrella, we had a single identity, and I think that the awareness grew exponentially when we did this, because I talked to a lot of people that were attending the fee-based program that had no idea that we were that we had an English as a second language program, that we were training employees in the community, that we had an adult, that we are an institution that issues a high school diploma. And so when we shifted that focus to, we're serving the broader community, I think that the word got out, and I think there were probably 1,000 students waiting in line to take the tuition-free courses again. And so I just think it was a combination of things, and we kind of blew it out of the water with this, unification and integration of everything under one umbrella. So now you see a schedule of classes that integrates everything that we offer, and the entire community then becomes aware of how big that is.
So another slide there, you mentioned the importance of that enrollment level as far as funding and stability goes. And I'm sure some people on the call today are familiar with the way that our community college system works in California, and how funding is based largely on FTES, full-time student equivalents. And yet there's a more complex formula emerging, where, a couple of years now into that, there's some other things happening. What do you see as the challenges, the opportunities, really the future of the funding and support for adult education, not only here, but just in the whole scope of how it fits into the larger community college system in our state? Can you give us some? I don't want you to predict anything, although you're welcome to, but just some thoughts on what you see those challenges to be, given that you've now presided over a significant growth in the program.
Yeah, so I think the state's funding formula, thankfully, they only changed the funding formula for the credit side. And they really need to give us stability and keep the funding formula the same for the non-credit side of the house, because we can predict our revenue, which is so important. And it shows a commitment, I think, to adult education if they keep it the same. One of the huge challenges that not only is our institution facing, but up and down the state, especially since now we're all remote and offering all of our courses through an online format, is the state has a really wonky funding formula for distance learning and non-credit. And that's a real barrier. And so we are advocating to change that, and to take down some of that almost indescribable formula. I know what it is, but I wouldn't dare to explain it to you. But it's really complex, and our system right now doesn't allow us to even collect funding from the state at SBCC for these non-credit online programs. We have to reprogram our whole back end. And so fortunately, the state has given us a blanket exception, and we can continue using the same accounting method that we've always used with our face-to-face classes, which is great. So I think that's one challenge. And the whole idea that we should be doing online instruction along with face-to-face, that's really clear right now after the experience these last 3 months. And so it's more important than ever to make that funding easier for the colleges. So I don't know if I answered your question. Is there a second part?
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to see. Just sort of what's the big picture, because I think everyone's concerned given the history of what's happened, and they love this program so much that we want to make sure that there's a future there. So I appreciate that.
Well, and the state has committed funding to adult ed like it never has before. The $500 million that went statewide for the adult education consortiums, and we host one of those here. And so there is the commitment to from the state to fund adult ed, and there is this really strong focus on the minoritized and marginalized populations, and to make sure that we're spending money to create access and to outreach to those marginalized populations.
Now we've first of all got a lot of love for you pouring in on the chat, as I'm sure you can glance at there. But we also have some questions around specific programs and classes, so we'll get to that in a minute. But before we dive down into the details, a couple more questions at a higher level. You spoke a bit on here. The Career Skills Institute is probably not as known in the broader community, but certainly well known among those employer partners and others. Can you talk about the role of adult education, School of Extended Learning in a moment like this, where we're obviously going into an unprecedented, we're going into a recession, and there is precedent there. We were in one just over a decade ago, which we, in many cases, never fully climbed out of. And yet this one is different, and the shape is different, the causes are different. So in a time like this, you scrambled in May, I know, and you described what you put together just now about the rapid reemployment programming. Can you talk about the range of possibilities, or what you see as the role of School of Extended Learning in a moment like this for our community, just from an economic development and employment perspective?
Sure. I mean, we can't do it alone. So we're very closely connected with the Workforce Development Board in the community. And so I think that we have to work together to kind of cradle those that are suddenly unemployed and try to work together to get them the skills that they need and get back out into the community with jobs. And so we are focused on the program areas that have high employment potential, and again, that I feel very strongly that that's part of our obligation to the community, is to make sure that we're there for folks when they're going through a rough time. I look at extended learning as the community arm of Santa Barbara City College, and our job is to be responsive to the need as they arise, and to work with our economic development partners in the community. And so, so we're working together. And I think, we've talked about how our students, they drive a big part of our economic engine in the community, because so many of our students are employed in the community. And so, when you see a recession come, and, that's going to have a huge impact on our enrollment. It's, unfortunately, enrollment goes up when employment is with an unemployment rate. And so we just want to be there to serve those students and to do what we can to help the community. That's our job.
On that note, you mentioned at the top of your presentation equity as one of the framing principles of how you approach School of Extended Learning. Of course, I don't have to tell anyone that we're in this moment now where that is top of mind across the country, around the world, really. I mean, obviously, in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, there's been an incredible outpouring of political activism, of community responses of various types. How does equity show up? And this can be, we're obviously talking about racial equity in this case, but also when you talk about employment and economics, we're talking about the economic side, and those two are so completely intertwined in our country. What do you, when you talk about equity from an SOEL, School of Extended Learning perspective, how do you approach that? What are you thinking about when you are designing program and building leadership and such?
Well, I think this COVID-19 situation has certainly put a magnifying glass or spotlight on where we aren't meeting the students where they are. So many students have access to internet issues, access to computer issues, access to a quiet space in which to work and to concentrate. And taking away this face-to-face opportunity is when that is so much of the lifeline for so many people in our community. We have to rethink how we educate our community. And so we're working with the Credit Campus on ensuring that students have access to Chromebooks. So we have set up a distribution station at Wake Campus to distribute Chromebooks to students that are in need. And we have funded hotspots for students that are in need. And now as we transition to coming back in fall, we have to really be thinking about what we're allowed to do face-to-face, number one, within the confines of the state and county restrictions, but how are we going to be bringing what we can face-to-face in order to make sure that we are serving those students that need it the most? And so one of the things that we're working on right now, for example, is bringing ESL students into the classroom that are having connectivity issues, are having access issues, and are having like study space issues, and being able to watch the live Zoom from the classroom so that it would just be a group of students. So it's like a flipped idea. We're not bringing the instructor to teach. We're just bringing the students to a place where they can Zoom and have greater support. So, extended learning in our team has been really focused on how we develop our equity mindset. I think it's a lifelong process for those of us that work at extended learning so that we can understand the needs and the stories of our student. And also one other thing that we've worked on is creating these student stories through video. And this helps the rest of our community understand the kinds of students we're serving and the kinds of challenges that they have. And so to hear a student story of an ex-offender, ex-addict who finally completes his high school diploma and gets a job and then transfers to an engineering program at Cal Poly that's the stuff of inspiration. And so we're really trying to capture those stories to help our community understand our student population.
Great. So some of the models you just mentioned, and you've done a lot of experimentation. I would argue you've long been one of those that are you'd be voted most likely to experiment with something as models go. And some of those really work out. And obviously you've made those permanent parts of the program. What about the forced experimentation of the moment we're in? We actually have a question from John Harrison, partly to this point. We've kind of been shoved into this moment of experimentation. What are you learning that's going to stick? What are the things you've discovered that you realize that whenever we return to whatever the new normal is, just might be a better way anyhow?
Yeah, so disruption is one of my favorite words. And this certainly has disrupted everything that we do, right? I've been in my home with my 86-year-old mother for 13 weeks. And that has certainly been a disruption in our lives, and this is certainly disrupting the way we provide education. And so there's some things that we embrace and that we love about what's happening now, and some things that we, are learning ways to maybe not do things. And so I think the biggest thing is, I remember this conversation when we were faced with either just shutting down or going remote. Of course, you could guess my choice is, we're going to go remote. We don't know how we're going to go remote. We don't know if this is going to work. We have senior population faculty teaching senior population, and many of our faculty have never Zoomed or imagined teaching anything online. And so what a challenge we were facing. And so it took sort of, I think, this inspirational stance and vision, I think, that I had. And it was that we need to stay connected with our community in the most extreme circumstances of isolation. We need to keep that lifeline for our students, right? And they're going to be already isolated. And if we don't reach out and we don't connect, that would be a travesty. And so it was sort of that inspiration, that because everybody was saying, we can't do this, we can't do this, we won't do this, we can't do this, there's no way. And I was like, there is a way, we're going to find a way, and we are going to do it, okay? And I guess what we've seen is just this incredible transformation of faculty, of staff, of managers, seeing something born that we didn't think was possible. And so I'm going to share with you, because you said you were going to ask me what's our most popular class. And
I've got a question for you, Melissa. What's your most popular class?
We have Fred Hoffman leading the race with 97 students in the wonderful world of movies, and World of Interest, which discusses contemporary issues, with 62 students, followed by Carissa Lumines's Splashing Watercolor with 57 students and 55 students in Tom Henderson's Beginning Watercolor. Like, I just can't believe it. And so we did it. And I think what we take away from this is this, unexpected need for remote instruction for people that can't get into a car and come to our classes. And so I really want to work on how we integrate some of these successes into a long-term sustainable way of offering instruction. And it's the future of education. And by the way, we're going to need to be able to toggle probably back and forth, face-to-face to online. So I don't think that this will ever go away.
All right. Well, now that we're into classes, let's talk about classes. So our good friend Marion Shapiro is on with us today. She has a very specific question. The ever popular ceramics courses that you offer, is there a way in the COVID-19 moment for students to get a hold of those glazed pieces that are waiting for them somewhere?
Yeah.
Masks, socially distanced. Is there a way?
Yes, there's a way. And we're working on it right now. So it might seem a little bit laborious, but what we decided to do, because we can't let people into the classroom, and we can't let people touch things. And so what we've decided to do is catalog things. And this is another sort of risky move because it's taking a long time to catalog everything. But I heard that for the first time ever, if someone takes a piece that doesn't belong to them, we'll know who it is. So what we're trying to do is photograph every piece and send out the photographic catalog with the signature underneath it. We're doing a 3D photograph, and people will identify their pieces, and then we have a person in the lab that will put those pieces in a box, bring it outside, put it on a table for somebody to pick up. That has been the plan that we've been working on. I'm hearing complaints about that plan, and so we're working on that too. But I think the interesting thing is we're going to have a new protocol on how we distribute pieces, and I think. And so we're working on something that's going to be efficient, and we might keep up this sort of cataloging idea and keep ruminating on it. But that for now is what we've decided, and it's going to take a little while. We started it a couple of weeks ago, so yeah.
Okay. And now on that same point, ceramics classes. Now we saw Dr. Goswami gave his latest update about what's going to be online, and that the answer is the majority of our courses in the fall will remain online. Are we going to go back to a ceramics course this fall, next spring? What's your prediction there?
So it's very difficult. Ceramics is, oh my gosh, probably my #1 challenge in terms of figuring out, can we do this face-to-face? we have so many students, and we have to social distance, and we have, and there just is no equitable way to bring students into the lab when you wouldn't be able to rotate students in so that everyone got a chance. And so we're working very closely with the faculty and making decisions alongside faculty on how we manage ceramics. We are offering ceramics in the fall, as far as I can tell. We're going to have a final on June 19th. And what we're thinking of is Zooming from the studio out to students remotely. We're going to be distributing clay to students, things like that. So we're really trying hard to keep ceramics going, keep our instructors employed and working. And they're working on sort of tweaking the curriculum a little bit and doing demonstration. And, you know, obviously students don't have wheels at home. And so we're going to try to ease back into it in fall and see how that goes. But we are bringing ceramics back in fall. I just don't have a final decision on the format. But that's kind of where we're thinking.
Right, well, you just made Claudia Scott and Marion Shapiro and others on this call very happy.
Good.
For that. Let me ask another one. Gene Martin brought up Mind Supermind, and this is something you and I have spent some time on. What do you would you want to share sort of some of the ideas about the future of Mind Supermind?
Yeah, so we have engaged in a very collaborative discussion with Forrest of, I forget his institution, the Consciousness Network, I think it is.
Consciousness Network, yeah.
Yeah, and we are talking about combining efforts to make Mind Supermind bigger and better as a partner. And so COVID-19 really kind of put a wrench into that planning that we had momentum on. I mean, we had several meetings and talking about this partnership, but we thought that the power of our community that is kind of hanging out in the same space, if you will, coming together, helping each other financially, and with a collaboration so that we're not competing with each other would be a very powerful way to go. And we're hoping that it will draw even greater attention and greater speakers if we collaborate. The other partner was the Marjorie Luke Theater, and Rod Latham and Jeff, and we were all having these conversations. And so that's what we're hoping ends up is this collaborative Mind Supermind that's bigger and better and more integrated into the community.
Great. Now, on that collaborative note, you mentioned the collaboration and program in your presentation. I just want to acknowledge, I didn't say this during the beginning introduction, but you've been by far one of the most collaborative leader on the college campus, administrator that we worked with on the foundation side when it comes to going and making the big asks. We have great collaborations across the campus, but I have to say when it comes to going and making the big ask, Melissa has set up more than one for us. And we've done that in partnership. Obviously, I'll mention the relationship we had with Jack when he was still alive, and Julie Nadell, and what is now an ongoing partnership with the Jack and Julie Nadell Center there, with right in front of the Scheinfeld for entrepreneurship. The others, have been some of these partners, like you mentioned, with the Future of Mind Supermind. What is the role of philanthropy in this work? I mean, you clearly get it. You work with us on it, but what do you see as the role of philanthropy in those, in that notion that this is the community arm, this is a collaborative endeavor? How do you see that?
Well, we really need the community to fund things that we can't get funded or that we aren't allowed to fund by the state. While I have you,
is this an ask right now?
This is my last great ask. We need to meet the demand of our artists in the community. And we are clearly not meeting the demand right now. And so I think that's something that we need to work on. I would love to have, I would love to be able to serve every single artist in our community, every single potter and ceramicist, and we can't meet the demand. And so it's just always a gyration to, meet as many students as we can. And this last year we experimented with limiting enrollment, and we went from serving 175 students to 275 students. That helps. But I think there's probably 500 to 1,000 other students that don't get a seat at the table. And so those are the kinds of things that we can't fund. And that has to come from philanthropy. And so that's just one of my ideas. And the support that we have from this community is second to none. And, we couldn't do what we do without, the Wake families of the world and the Nadells and the Scheinfelds. And so, I think it plays a huge role, and we need that to continue. I mean, I'm showing that, we're doing really well and we have excess revenue, but I can't spend that excess revenue in the way in which we need. That has to go back to the general fund. So very important.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I know we're getting close to our hour here, but there's much to cover. So I have at least a few more questions. I want to just note that one of the most inspiring things I've seen that I was unaware of until you introduced me to it was our adult high school's graduation ceremony. And to see that in real time, folks that did not complete their high school education and yet later in life have come back through the adult high school program and can do that, and then get celebrated in a way that is certainly in every bit equal, and if not even more personal than the high school graduation that I remember, many of us remember. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I think that's one of those little pieces of the continuum of what you do that may get lost in the shuffle. You talk about all of the enrichment programs and the lifelong learning, with certainly the careers piece, but then just the ABCs, the basics. Just maybe a moment on some of those real core pieces that maybe don't get quite the spotlight, but have a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a special event that we have every year, and it breaks my heart that we couldn't have it this year. And we graduate around 75 to 80 students each year who either earn their GED or earn their high school diploma. And I think that in very special group of faculty that do bend over backwards to serve these students that have all different needs and are coming from all different places in their lives. And I think that's probably the cornerstone of life-changing work that we do. I don't want to leave our ESL program behind, because that too is life-changing work, and students find a way to, they have 4 jobs, a family at home, and they find a way somehow to make a commitment to come to class and to study and to persevere to get a certificate. And I have to just mention that under Sachi Oates' leadership in ESL, we did this, we called it the World Cup of Achievers. And we got students really excited about completing certificates in that program. And we had only 5 certificates on the books in the beginning of this fiscal year. And we set a goal, I think we set a goal of 40, and we got 263 certificates completed this fiscal year. And so, that's just another area in which we need to celebrate. And so we have, we've thrown around this idea of growing that graduation to include our ESL certificate earning students. But yeah, you hit it on the head. It's just a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, a beautiful moment. And we hear their stories. And, I sit up there as a dignitary with the other board members, and I bring a box of Kleenex and I pass the Kleenex across the stage because everybody needs to use a tissue to dry their eyes. Yeah.
And that was another example of collaboration where you reached out to me specifically because you wanted to connect folks to the promise. So we had now an increasing number of these adult high school completing graduates who are then coming right into the SBCC promise. So thank you also for that.
So great. Yep. Thank you.
So I have one more specific question, but I definitely want to give you the last word. And by the way, we're going to save the file on the chat here so that you have these love notes as you move on to your next phase, your next career.
Thank you.
But you mentioned the way you solve the distance learning moment that we're in. And there's a couple of folks, Sally Sangers with a couple of folks have also weighed in about the question of synchronous versus asynchronous. We've spoken to other faculty and college leaders about this. How do you think through, is there a role for the asynchronous, and for those who are not familiar with the term, the pre-recorded lecture that then folks can access at their chosen time versus the synchronous where instead of getting into a classroom, we all gather on a Zoom call? How do you think through strategy like that? And is there an impact either in budget or in quality or anything with that?
Well, this one was really simple because the state was giving out blanket exceptions for live synchronous Zooming or live synchronous video conferencing to not have it count as distance learning and to have it count as if it were face-to-face, which affects our whole funding formula. So I mentioned earlier that if we did anything other than that, we wouldn't have gotten any funding at all because we don't have the mechanism to collect the distance learning funding formula yet. We're working really hard behind the scenes to do that so that we can move forward with asynchronous learning in a long-term option. And so we really needed that funding formula to stay consistent. And that is, specifically it's the positive attendance accounting method, where you count the hours of butts of students and seats, and you send that number to the state, you get a check. If we were to do anything else, it would have counted as that distance learning funding formula, which is so wonky and crazy, and we don't even have the mechanism to collect on that yet because our back-end system is not functional in that way yet for non-credit. So that's why that decision was made. There really wasn't we didn't really have a choice. And so I had a meeting earlier with Sally, and we talked about how we make sure that we keep faculty involved in these decision makings. And I think in the decision making, I think absolutely faculty need to have a very strong voice as their area. And if they want to work toward bringing asynchronous instruction into the School of Extended Learning, by all means, and let's have a long-term plan and make sure we can collect funding on it.
Thank you for that. All right, so I'm gonna give you one more question just to address in your closing remarks. So it's yours from here on. As you go to Skyline as the new president of Skyline College, you've had 3 large roles here at Santa Barbara City College, plus plenty of other projects that you've been leading and been part of. What thing or what things are you going to take with you from this experience as you step into the presidency at the college? And then you can say absolutely anything else you want.
Oh, wow. Well, I think that really what my experience here has been all about is relationships with people. You can't get stuff done if you don't have consensus and people that trust you and people that believe in your vision and your inspiration and that are willing to, this current team, it's been true of every team I've worked with, but this current team went through such a tremendous amount of change, effectively dismantling this beautiful work that they had done for the Center of Lifelong Learning, and then, pivoting to extended learning and, joining my team and coming along with that vision. And I don't think that that would have ever happened without all of the love and support and compassion and understanding who each other is and working together. And, you know, that's what I learned. And so I'm going to take that with me to Skyline. I mean, I have had such an outpouring of well-wishing and support. It's been so bittersweet. And, you know, so I'm going to bring that. I'm going to bring that because it works. I'm going to bring my compassion. I'm going to bring my love. I'm going to bring my trust, and I'm going to let people get to know me. I want to get to know people. And it's not about, like, you know, making decisions and then it's about talking through, okay, here, we want to get here. How are we going to get there? How do you want to get there? How should we do it together? And what is the common vision that we can, you know, hold on to? And so I have to thank you, Jeff, the foundation, and all the people that I've worked with, and all the love that's coming through the chat. And I'm just so full of gratitude for this opportunity. And it wouldn't have been without SBCC that I would even have been considered. And so I'm just so grateful to Santa Barbara City College and the district for the opportunities.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us today, for everything you've done. So Melissa, Dr. Melissa Moreno, she's been the architect of the Scheinfeld Center, architect of the new School of Extended Learning. I'll say lead architect. You had your teams. But we're certainly gonna miss you here. But best of luck and huge support going with you from here up to San Mateo and to Skyline College. We hope to hear back soon, reports, how things are going up there. Hopefully not just scandals in the newspaper, but actual reports about what's happening. And we do really look forward to hearing how you excel up there. For those of you that have been asking about what's next with respect to the School of Extended Learning, as you may or may not know, Dr. Utpal Goswami, our superintendent president, has called together a town hall with all involved, I believe, tomorrow, and that will just be the first of many discussions about what's next. So there will be certainly opportunities to discuss that, and you'll hear more coming soon. I'll remind everybody on behalf of the SBCC Foundation, you know, we only exist because of that same community support. So we want to thank everybody who is part of that, that has built this foundation. And like I said, a lot of that goes back to the roots of the adult ed program and School of Extended Learning. And if you want to see this and you want to share it with a friend, and you just joined us late, or you just want to share this conversation, we will have these posted on our website, sbccfoundation.org. Very likely within a day, thanks to our fabulous team. I want to thank Jennifer LeMay, Raisa Smorrell, and Rachel Johnson, my colleagues who make these possible. So we will again say thank you to Melissa, and we will see you all sometime soon. Thank you.